Shruti Nair from Resolute AI. We are an artificial intelligence enabled software company who builds safe and secure solutions for schools and enterprises. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all the panelists and participants of today's webinar. This is a corona time. Fear, worry, and uncertainty is on each and everyone's mind, right? This is more like a world war, except in this case, we are all on the same side, fighting against the same enemy. This pandemic has hit all the sectors really hard, especially healthcare, education, aviation, retail, etc. So it's a big challenge for the schools as they are dealing with children and their safety overrides everything else during the situation. Even if the government eases the lockdown, it is very important for the kids and staff to have a safe and hygienic environment in the premises. So this session will be centered on, firstly, the challenges created by COVID-19 situation in schools. Secondly, the constraints we are likely to face in the times to come. And lastly, the steps that needs to be taken to create an education setup that ensures hygienic and safe school environment. So it's my honor to welcome all the three panelists of today's webinar. We have with us Dr. Vasudha Neemani, who is a principal at Rockwoods International School, Udaipur. She is an educationist with over 27 years of experience spanning across teaching, administration, mentoring, and advisory roles, with 16 years in Cambridge education and 10 years in leadership roles. A double master's in psychology and education, and a special educator by profession, Dr. Vasudha has worked towards bringing about a decisive change in the Indian education system and put it on par with our global standards. She has been awarded the Best Dynamic Educationist of the Year by the Media Federation of India. She has also won the Avantika Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award 2018 as one of the best 50 principals in India. We welcome you, Dr. Vasudha.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Our second panelist is Mr. Vikas Sharma, who is a tech and social entrepreneur with 21 years of industry experience. Vikas is a graduate from IIT Kharagpur and IIM Bangalore. He's working towards creating a top quality but affordable K-12 school called Rise High Public School. It is situated in Aurangabad, which is around 100 kilometers away from one of the holiest cities, Bodh Gaya. His technical venture is creating cutting-edge IoT security products for K-12 schools and transport segments. Prior to the stint as an entrepreneur, Vikas has worked in IT sector with companies like Mindtree, Aztec, iGate, and played multiple delivery and business roles in India and abroad. We welcome you, Mr. Vikas.
Thank you, Shruti. Pleasure to be here.
I'm glad to have you. Our third panelist is Ms. Nita, who is a principal at Fathahalli Chirantana Valley Public School, Bengaluru.
Hi, Shruti.
Yes, ma'am. Your video is on. Just a minute. We cannot see you, ma'am. So if you could.
I'm just trying. The video is not getting connected.
Oh, is it? Okay. So, Nita is a principal at Hosahalli Chirantana Valley Public School, Bengaluru. She has completed her MSc and MPhil. She's an accomplished visionary leader in the CBSE sector with 15 years of teaching, operational, planning, and administration experience with schools across Bengaluru. Presently working for an upcoming CBSE residential school. A warm welcome to Ms. Geeta.
Thank you, Shruti, and good evening, one and all.
Good evening, ma'am. Happy to have you here. There is so much more to mention about the panelists, so I'll be attaching the links of their profiles on our social media pages to know more about them. So please save all your questions for the end, as we are allocating some time just for the question and answers after the panel discussion. So you can write down your questions in the chat session, which will be answered at the end. So we have received a lot of questions from parents, teachers, and some of the principals across India, where they like to get some insights and suggestions from the panelists. So most of the parents and teachers who have written to us are curious and would like to know from all our three panelists about when should the school reopen? And some parents are even with a question on will the schools actually reopen? So, Ms. Geeta, would you like to begin with your thoughts on this question?
Yeah, Shruti.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a very, most critical question for us at this, uncertainty time. If we don't reopen the school on the right time, during definitely, the entire academic year is going to suffer. All the learning activities are going to suffer. If we reopen the school, there will be an apprehension of resurrection of, infection to the broader community. And also there are, many criterias like, when to open the schools and how to open the schools and for which segment we have to open the schools. So one criteria is the infection rates are fluctuating across the country, like across the states and across the districts. Even if it is smaller, area, it is talukas. And also it in turn depends on the capacity of healthcare system of that concerned state or districts or talukas. If you see in Maharashtra, the present situation, if you see the confirmed cases, it is around 41,642 cases. Similarly, if you see the same thing in Kerala, it is 690 cases. And in Karnataka, especially where I'm residing, it's 1,006.5 cases are there. And in Rajasthan, 6,227 cases are there. So if this is the case, it is a bit difficult to say like when it is going to be reopened. If we come across like globally, we can see like China, Japan, and Denmark. So these are the countries, they have already reopened the school. And the European countries are yet to, like they're under planning. So what to do and what not to do. It is, it has become a hotspot across the globe. And when you see the USA, it has ordered to close the entire academic, schedules for this year. So in this scenario in India, so the decision is still under process. I can say the National Council of Educational Research and Training, that is NCERT, is exploring a new system of operating the schools. And in this regard, we need to receive the guidelines. So as of now, till 31st May, the lockdown is going to continue on schools. So, but under the proper safety guidelines, many state governments have given the permission to open the administrative wing of the school. Especially in Karnataka, we can see this. So, since coronavirus is going to lead its life along with us, even we have to, assimilate that coronavirus. So, in this critical situation, we have to find some ways and means how to reopen the schools at the earliest, what I can see. There is no as such, we cannot definitely say like when it is going to be reopened. So when it comes to the colleges, I should not mention here, but the UGC has taken up, it has given its report, the opening of colleges by first week of September. So definitely for the schools, we have to wait for the central government and state government guidelines. So based on that, definitely we are going to open the schools, I can say.
Thank you so much, Ms. Geeta. We now welcome Dr. Vasudha to share her thoughts on this question, because this is a question running around everywhere. So all the parents want to know about it.
Good evening, everyone. So as per my discussion with the management, or we are discussing a lot. So when it comes to the boarding school, I don't see boarding schools opening maybe this session, or maybe till December or something like that, because social distancing is a must thing. But when we are talking about day school with the parameters set by the government, so maybe somewhere around mid-August or first week of September, I see the schools opening as mean face-to-face interaction with the students. But when we talk about the online classes, or the learning of the students, so that is not stopping. So the schools have been very creative, teachers have been very creative. So that maybe the face-to-face, the school building as such, we can expect it to open by maybe August or September as per whatever calculations. And yes, in Rajasthan also, there was a news wherein it is said that the teachers, the administrative staff, etc., can come and report to the schools. But unfortunately, our school is in Udaipur, and wherein there are a lot of cases right now. So we are not opening the school. But yes, tough times for all of us. And let's see. I mean, we are all also waiting. But yes, that's what, you know, my whatever studies I have done, research I have done, and the calculation as per the news is that maybe, you know, August, mid-August or first week of September, with the social distancing norms. And the question also is this, that how many parents would be ready to send their children to the school? So that is the other question. We may open it, but how many parents will be ready to take that risk?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Vasudha. Thank you so much for your insights. I now welcome Mr. Vikas, if you could add on to Dr. Vasudha and Ms. Geeta's views.
Sure. Thanks, Shruti. So, I stay in West Bengal, and as of now, the official notification is to close schools till 10th of June. That's very optimistic. Looking back, that was, announced almost a couple of months back, and they have not changed it. But June is anyway not going to be possible. Probably, anyways, around 10th of June, it will be severe summer, which is yet to come in most of the places, but it will be there by then. So June is definitely not possible. And my best hope is, and I just say hope, is around mid of July to end of July is my best case scenario. And since schools have been closed for quite some time, just in March itself, schools were closed. It's going to be a very long time since schools are functioning. So government is, I see a lot of reports going on around which says that government is thinking seriously about this sector and when to reopen. So probably there will be some sort of opening. It won't be a full-fledged opening, but some partial opening I'm expecting by mid of July. And then depending on how things progress from there, whether they increase the risk or whether they are okay by then, things can progress from there. So my best case guess is mid of July.
Yeah, it's more about living and learning with COVID-19. Yeah. Thank you so much, panelists, for sharing your views and suggestions. So now let us understand on how are these virtual classes impacting the mindset of parents and teachers, and how do you think they may react to reopening of the schools? So Dr. Vasudha, would you please share your thoughts on this?
When it comes about the impacting the mindsets of the students, or the parents or the teachers, to be honest, nobody was prepared for this, right? So all the school management, all the directors, principals, they had a talk, this conversation, that we need to do something where our teachers are trained digitally, technologically, and they are able to impart the best of education online also, if they are not having face-to-face interactions. But as in the situation started and it came, so though at my school, we started it immediately as the school had shut down, and we were prepared for it because we used to take any which ways, a lot of demo and a lot of digital classes, online classes. We used to do that experiment, not keeping in mind that this will be the call for the day, that we will be doing it. But I think need is the mother of invention. So how it started was so now parents also have understood that there is no choice. Students also fortunately have cooperated well with us, because I understand. And the biggest commendable job that has been done, it has been done by the teachers, because irrespective of being judged all the time, being monitored all the time, there have been a lot of memes regarding this situation, wherein some are supporting the teachers, some are making fun of the teachers. There are some WhatsApp, TikTok videos also, but they are, I think, taking everything positively in their stride and doing their best, whatever they can do. So early morning. So what we did was that we had kept the timings just for 3 hours, and I preferred not, as a school head, I preferred not to disturb my teachers after 2 o'clock and not to start any class before 9 o'clock. So they had whatever time, because there were no maids, nobody was there. And at the same point in time, the mothers of the little ones, the mothers of the little children, students also, they also had a lot of time. So initially there were little challenges wherein they were taking time to adjust to the online classes. They were taking little time for the video conferencing classes. But towards when it started happening, they seemed to have started enjoying it, because they were looking forward to see the cheerful faces of their teachers. Teachers were also looking forward, and we never lost the contact, because I was sending my recorded broadcast messages, voice messages to my students every day. I was just going into the classes like I was used to do when the school were on, and interacting with the students, keeping in touch with the parents. And we had actually not made it, because a lot of parents were very concerned about the screen time of the children, that if they are there on the screen all the time, what will happen, and their eyes will be affected. So for our primary classes, we had kept it twice in a week: Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. And for senior classes, it was every day. And having said that, it was a blend of online, face-to-face, these video calling classes, with the twist of, with the blend of Edmodo classes, wherein the teachers had recorded their sessions, shared the PPT, posted the assignments on Edmodo. So it was a complete balance. So right now, parents also know that this is going to continue till July, or whatever, July, August, whatever we are talking about. But at the same point in time, I think we as school heads, if I say as a principal, I welcome my children every day in the morning. So we are missing that. We are missing our children, and children are missing us also. But I think academics can take care later on also. Teachers are there to have, but the main thing is that we are trying to make our students very compassionate, and taking the challenges in the stride. Now if you see the point of view of the little ones, they can't go down to play, they cannot meet their friends, and then we are expecting them to study and do the assignments and take care of the things. The mothers are also expecting them that they should not be anxious, or they should not be throwing any tantrums. But we are forgetting that in all this mess of COVID-19, the bravest one are the children. I mean, adults can adjust, but the bravest are the children, because they don't know whether they should be happy that wow, holidays have started, they don't have to go to school, or they should be sad they are not able to meet their children, they are not able to meet their friends, they are not able to meet they're not playing, they're not doing anything. So everything what they are doing, they're doing at home. So we can see, we are seeing, and everybody is experiencing that there are lots and lots of baking exercises happening. All of a sudden, you know, every mom has become a chef. Not that they are not chefs, but yes, they are trying different dishes, doing a lot of things, making the creativity is coming out. So that's very important and positive thing of the day. But yes, it is a great jolt to everybody. As Shruti, you rightly said, that it is a world war kind of situation, that we are fighting against one enemy, and this is going to stay. And what I feel is that I'm not talking about primary ones, but I think we are anticipating an impact on the pre-primary education for sure, because parents will not be prepared to send the little ones to the school if the school reopens also. Because we will be talking, I know we will be talking about that also later, how the schools have to reopen, what are the measures they have to take. So that is very important. But as of now, right now, my school has declared vacations. We have given some home assignments to the students that they can complete it, because I feel that at this point in time, if it was a regular school year also, so it would have been vacations, and teachers, including mothers, including children, everybody needs that break to rejuvenate and come back. Yes, fortunately, unfortunately, management is still working because me, my director, my headmistress, my vice principal, we are just preparing now how to have the classes rolling after when the school reopens virtually. Like we'll have to take some decisions to give them the best of education. And I think we are making our students prepare for any kind of challenges. So this is the best kind of education, and best education is outside textbooks. Otherwise, these days, Google is there to answer all the questions. So that is my take on the whole situation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vasudha. It was really deep insight. Mr. Vikas and Ms. Geeta, would you like to add anything else to Dr. Vasuda's thoughts?
Shruti, I think Geeta, you want to go first?
Sir, you can.
Okay, so I totally agree with what Dr. Vasudha said. This has been an unprecedented situation, and one of the biggest fallouts and biggest warriors, unsung warriors so far are the teachers who have quickly adapted to this new requirements, and they have been brushing up on their digital skills. They have been doing a lot of stuff to keep children engaged and deliver their work and ensure that the study continues. It doesn't take a backseat. Having said that, there is a big chasm between the Bharat and India, what we call. So while people in cities and the kids in cities, they have access to much better computing resources, the internet resources, and so on and so forth. So, a lot is able to get bridged by the teachers when, parents are also probably better educated, they're able to support their kids. So a lot of things are happening in cities, in spite of, kids not going to school. But the same thing is not possible. Let's say, huge majority of children are going to government schools. So anyways, they are going to suffer a big way. Because not many of them have got, even access to laptop or Android phone or net and stuff like that. Even many of the affordable segment of private schools, 80% of the private schools, there again, it's a similar kind of situation. Significant percentage of parents haven't got that kind of resources, and other people who even have got it, they for them coming to terms with virtual classroom is another new thing, and they are not ready to accept that this is the way to teach. They say this is not a way to teach. So they are again less supportive even if they have some of the resources to support. So there will be a challenge, and that challenge is good in the sense that schools work is there. Schools need to exist because certain things which you are able to do only inside the school premises, they are still needed and very much missed by the kids. Of course, having this virtual classrooms and all, at least they're able to see their friends. At least they are staying at home. They are at least able to enjoy a bit more with their friends. At least some semblance of sense they are able to make out of it. But not equivalent to what it could be in the school. But since there is no better alternative, we have to continue with this. And since COVID is not going to go away very soon, so we have to live with it. We have to make way with it. India is a poor country. I don't know how will we take resources. In US, when the people not having this kind of resources, government is giving them a Chromebook and internet and stuff like that. It's a joining. That cannot be happening in India. So it will be a tough thing. I don't know many people will somehow be able to cope up with this, but there will be a lot many more who will be needing better than what we have to do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Vikas. Ms. Geeta, your
Shruti, yeah, I totally agree with what sir said. I think we can continue with the next.
all right.
Yeah.
So now, fingerprint as an attendance system is almost safe in schools, right? So how can we adapt this touchless solutions in the school premises? So, Mr. Vikas, do you like to share your inputs on this because of your immense experience in technology?
Absolutely. So we are, school IoT solutions and all kind of solutions that goes into school. So this is very close to the heart, and we have been, looking into kind of solutions that are currently proposed. So fingerprint is the first one to go because that is, touch kind of solutions. So again, I'll come to three kind of solutions, for three different situations. One is, even before kid reaches the school, what kind of solutions schools are looking for or could be probably in practice very soon. So even before the kid boards the bus, you must have been seeing the thermal scanners and other kind of scanners which are going in the apartment, which are going into multiple places. So they will be the first ones to come. Again, in India, we are seeing 80% of asymptomatic cases, but still, even if one parameter people are trying to capture, even if that is caught, probably will be having a lesser of spread. So that will be the first one. Before the kids board the bus, probably they will be, pushed for the thermal scanners and things like that. And second, even when they come to school, again, they probably have to go through the thermal scanners before entering. Again, other kind of solution which people are thinking about, and especially in offices, people are implementing. I don't know how much of it will come to schools. Is, kind of tunnel wherein you are spread with some kind of disinfectant, and you're fully disinfected before you enter the premises. So that is another kind of thing which is going on. Again, how much of it will be adapted by schools, and again, all these things, what I'm saying, will be depending on what is the school's budget, how big the school is, how deep their pockets are, and depending on that, they will be adapting to one of the solutions. So after the school, kid enters the school, then comes the question of identification. Now, in identification, earlier there were solutions. So for teachers, especially for teachers, identification and all, there was biometric. So now that has taken a complete backseat. So biometric is it will take some time to come back again into focus. It's one of the very secured ones, but unfortunately not of in favor anymore. So what are the other kind of solutions? So there are solutions which are based on technologies like Bluetooth, technologies like RFID, technology like face recognition. Now, both RFID, long distance, short distance, those kind of things are contactless, and Bluetooth. But again, they also come with their own kind of shortcomings, in the sense that somebody can proxy. So that is always possible in both these kind of solutions. So, but they are existing in schools, and probably there'll be more adoption, because if you don't have that, how do you do better identification? But the one which is going to catch up very much and will be increasing its presence in schools now will be the face recognition one, because people are developing the solutions. So earlier there were face recognition systems which was you have to come very close to the face reader, show your iris and stuff like that. Again, like your fingerprint technology, that also is going to take a bit of backseat, because people won't come near devices, won't like to come. So the solution is face reading from a far distance and getting the accuracy. And I see that a lot of companies are coming up with even reading the faces and making the identification even when people are wearing masks. So already a lot of work is going on in that area. So that will come to schools and help the administrators to identify even without coming near the students. In fact, some of the face scanning is even coming with thermal imaging cameras, and also in a crowd also people are trying to find out if somebody is running a temperature. Of course, there will be strict guidelines from the schools that you don't come to school if you are coughing, or if you are sneezing, or if you have any kind of fever and all. But still, I'm sure that people will like to bypass that and come to school. So, people will try to find this out. So this is the identification part, based on RFID, Bluetooth, or face recognition, people will be identified. So that will be the second set of technologies which will be, coming in vogue in schools. The third set of technologies, we are talking today about, social distancing in schools, even while classes and all. So one way, and, I saw some papers being circulated that would it be, odd even roll numbers coming every day, or how will it happen? Now, let's say, if we go with this odd even kind of scenario, now what happens is there are two possibilities. One is that the teacher teaches twice. So one day the same thing to odd, students, one day to even students, and so on and so forth. Of course, many schools are running 5 days, we go to 6 days and all. So those kind of adaptations will happen. But other kind of schools, who have the resources, are also looking for technologies which is like, live video capture of whatever the classes are going on, as now the virtual classes are going on. So half the kids will be in the class taking the classes, other half will be at home, receiving those lectures via this, the virtual classroom mode. So that would be the third set of technologies which I see, which many schools will be adapting.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Vikas. So, Ms. Geeta and Dr. Vasita, would you like to add on to Mr. Vikas' suggestions? Is there anything more you would like
No,
to add on?
I think he has covered the points very nicely. We can move on to the next question.
Next.
All right. So now, how should schools go about in updating the safety measures to the newest global best practices? As Ms. Geeta and Mr. Vikas has covered it earlier, that is, for example, in China and Denmark, the schools have reopened, and we are seeing the schools follow step-by-step measures like disinfecting the shoes and school bags when entering the school premises, or it could be disposing the mouth mask on entry, or doing a thorough temperature check, or the sanitization tunnels, and also introducing facial recognition, as Mr. Vikas said, instead of fingerprinting. So, Ms. Geeta, if you could share your suggestions on the safety protocols that needs to be added in the schools here.
Yeah, Shruti. So we know that in this critical situation, reopening schools, simply it won't be a matter of flipping a switch and returning to the normal life, right? So in this respect, I would like to mention here Mr. Love Agarwal. He is a joint secretary, Health Ministry, has mentioned, we must live our life with Corona. So in this regard, definitely, we cannot keep closing the school. We have to reopen the school. Meanwhile, we must have the best preventive measures and the practices as a part of our life, as well as the school routine too. So in this aspect, like what the best practices, right from child enters into the school vehicle till it leaves the school. So let us go about. So one by one, I'll just go about that. So before picking and after dropping the students, the buses should be thoroughly sanitized. It's a very must and should. The student hands and the soles of their shoes are sanitized with an alcohol-based disinfectant before they allowed into the school building. So as they arrive at the school, their temperature should be checked using thermal scanners. And it should be recorded. If anyone found like running a fever, so immediately they should be sent home. And meanwhile, apart from this, we have to educate even teachers and students. They must know that the signs and symptoms of possible corona virus infection. So like a fever, tiredness, a dry cough, and if it is in the most severe cases, difficulty in breathing. If anybody shows this kind of signs and symptoms, we must definitely send home. And of course, the students should wear regularly masks. Maintaining 6 feet distance as a physical distancing is a matter of concern in the school premises. In this regard, the management could take up little risk in marking the floor in the school premises, wherein exactly each child should stand. So this could help them in maintaining the proper distances. And if it possible, this is the structural changes immediately it is not possible to happen, but definitely with the span of time this could happen. A closed desk, and many schools are also must be having this kind. A closed desk or table should be provided for each student inside the classrooms. And same like water bell is there. This we could see the new practice in Kerala, Thrissur district. So same like water bell, even we can keep like sanitizer bell also can be practiced in the school. So in order to sanitize kids' hands regularly, and in each class we can also designate a student as a disinfectant officer and also a teacher as a chief disinfectant officer in order to maintain the monitor the school regularly. And there are some activities like, lunch, assemblies, restroom usage of restrooms or washrooms. So this kind of activities will be involving large groups. So here we should have a little, a reform should be there by changing the snacks or lunch break timings for every section of the students. And by conducting, instead of a regular normal assembly, we can conduct classroom assembly so that we can avoid the grouping. So at the most, what possible school can do is keep the students group smaller in size. So whatever the activities it is. So this could be advisable for all the schools. So in addition to this, there are certain contact surfaces like sinks, toilets, toilet seats, door handles. So should be disinfected thrice a day. Of course, this practice is happening, but we have to be more careful towards these practices. Many schools will follow like, fruit days, vegetable day, color day, etc. like that. So in this regard, each and every school should see to it children will be having healthy eating habits so that their immunity level will be boosted up. At this point of time, the body immunity level, the immunity should be required for each and every child. And the entry and exit of the students must be in a smooth manner so that the crowding can be avoided. And we have to make sure that all the indoor spaces, the classrooms are well ventilated so that the increased air circulations will be there. A school system should establish a clear procedure of disposing of waste. This is at most the edge of the school where they have to taken care. And of course, the establishment of new policies for the visitors like parents, community members, delivery boys, etc., so that we can protect our school from the spread of these viruses. So after each PT period, that physical education period, all the sports equipments, whatever they're used, should be disinfected properly. So last but not the least, school has to ensure that the social and moral wellness of the students by incorporating a stress management and anxiety classes into everyday lessons. So here there is a sudden changes in the classroom scenario for all the students. They have to cope up with these changes. Always, change should be, it should evolve. It should not be sudden. If it is a sudden, definitely it leads drastic changes. It should be haphazard results. It leads haphazard results. So we should evolve this. So every school should have completely drafted plan and procedures and policies with respect to the children's safety. And by taking parents into confidence, definitely we can reopen the school and we can run the school smoothly, what I can say. And anyway, in all the CBSE schools, we have this club system. And in this club systems, we can strengthen the health and wellness club. This is the last point which I would like to add. So we have to give utmost importance, for this health and wellness club, which is prevailing in the CBSE schools. So if any points is required more than this, I expect, sir and the ma'am can go ahead.
Would you like to add on, Dr. Vasudha and Mr. Vikas, anything more to what Ms. Geeta said?
No, I
Any
think
corner is left out.
no, she has covered everything, and regarded to transport and things, I think you have a separate thing to
Yeah.
ask. So I think no, it's fine. It's fine.
All right. Okay, so moving on to the next question. Now, it is about understanding on what are the challenges rural schools are facing and how they can overcome it. For example, it could be the internet issues or the computer or the laptop availability. I think Mr. Vikas had mentioned it earlier. So is there anything, Mr. Vikas, you would like to add on this, since your aim has always been trying to give the best to the rural sector?
Yeah. Thanks, Shruti. Yes, so we have been, every day we have been trying out to find some new ways in connecting the unconnected. So that has been the goal. The good thing, which has happened in last 1-2 weeks has been now that at least the textbooks we are able to give to the students. Earlier they were not even having the next class textbooks because the schools closed even before the textbooks were distributed. So at least now we have something, some base which is given to the students. We can ask them somehow to, at least read this chapter, that chapter, do this exercise, that exercise, and so on and so forth. So at least, some part of it is done. But, and we have been, trying to use the combination of WhatsApp, the Zoom, WebEx classes, or along with the Google Classroom. So these three things we are trying to use in our case. Also, we are pushing content to the students or a school app and all. But again, what we're trying to do, we have kind of made 4 or 5 steps of teaching, every particular thing for the students, so that even if some students are not able to join live, at least the other 3-4 things are able to help them in some way. it will not be exactly the same, but at least, they are not left completely high and dry. So that has been the case. The other thing, which is a pretty old technology and which is useful here, we have been trying out. Unfortunately, it's still expensive, and that has been the audio conferencing thing. Even if people do not have internet, they just have a feature phone. Using an audio conferencing solution, at least teacher can talk to all the students at once. Even but unfortunately, that has been an expensive solution, and none of the we have been talking to all the telecom providers, and none of them have asked us or given us any inclination of bringing down the cost. So, but that could be one useful tool if the costs are reasonable for the rural students. But other than that, we have been asking our teachers to give a call to students, talk to 5 students every day, try to help them, how they are, what kind of situation they are going through, the kind of stress they are going through, and how they can cope up with this. We have been talking to parents and asking them that if they can do something at home, read them stories, do something, some kind of activities. So we have shared them a lot of, resources to parents also, if they can make use of some or other things to, compensate what teachers are not able to do. Many of the good thing is apps are free. Let's say Byju's or Vedantu or things are like, as of now, they are free. They are trying to increase their marketing, but I'm sure that their, numbers will go down as soon as, they start charging again. But, they are at least free. At least people who can do and use them, they are at least able to benefit from it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vikas. Dr. Vasudha and Ms. Geeta, anything to add on?
No, absolutely. I think he has covered the points.
All right. All right. Okay. Moving on to our next question. That would be for which segment of students and teachers should school reopen to? I think even this is covered, but then I would just might be, if there is anything left out, we could just discuss it here. That would be, parents are already complaining about conducting online classes for a 4 to 5 year old. As attention span is way too less at this age. We all know it, right? So it's very tough to contain them at one place, but also sending them to school can also be risky as they are too young to understand the social distancing norms. So how do you think the segregation needs to be done? Ms. Geeta, do you have anything more to talk on this?
Yeah, Shruti. When we see these Denmark and Norway countries, they are prioritized to keep the schools for pre-primary and primary sector, primary wing. So why? Because in order to help the parents who need to go for the work. So, but I personally feel each and every segment should be given utmost importance, and no segment should be left out from the learning activities. So in this situation, we have to find some ways and means, like how to accommodate each and every child into the learning practices. So here, the schools could go selectively, they can go ahead. So like, reopening and ensuring that they keep student groups small and dispersed. How this could be possible? It in turn depends on the, private schools or government schools based on their infrastructure, budget, and their capacity. It depends on. So one possibility is like running schools in 2 different shifts. So like grade 1 to grade 7, depending upon the strength. So like between 8 a.m. to 12 noon, and grade 7 to grade 12 is between 12 to 5 p.m. But here, this is okay. Even in Karnataka also, they are like insisting on this kind of, system of running the schools. But there are like big practical problems will come into picture. As I earlier said, it depends on the infrastructure and the budget of the school. The transport problems will arise, the picking and dropping the students, and maintaining the time constraints will come into picture. And also like, maintaining the physical distance in the vehicle also matter. So if you ask me, the school can go ahead. This is personally what I, feel. There's a second possibility, like conducting the classes alternative days. Say like, for particular segments, say like, Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, handling classes for grade 1 to grade 7. Here also like segregation based on the number of students who are come under this category. And the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday can be handled for this grade 7 to grade 12. So that these students will be, off for 3 days. So during that time, so we can utilize this technology-led education. So we can go ahead with the e-learning methodologies, or there are some countries who are following this, neighborhood learning process, the community learning process, and especially in Finland, this kind of practice is happening. And also, we can assign students through digital assignment. We can give some work to the students so that they can complete in these 3 days. So that meanwhile, we don't leave away any kind of segment of this school, so that we can give. This is how I feel like personally.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Gita. Mr. Vikas and Dr. Vasudha, anything to add on? Okay. I think, yeah, Dr. Vasudha.
Yeah, just now, only thing, of course, it has to be taken a call that whether it would be like 30% or morning evening shifts or things like that. But for that, financially and economically, the schools have to be prepared for that thing. So yes, so that is a call that needs to be taken. That's it I want to add.
All right, Dr. Vasudha. Yeah. So I think let's move on to our next question, which parents were asking when they were registering for the webinar. So if classes can be held outdoors so that students and teachers can maintain distance from each other, how truly possible is that? Because we know some of the school infrastructure is limited to the classroom space. So Dr. Vasudha, you have anything to
See,
suggest?
there are, yes, so since Mr. Vikas is from Calcutta, so he'll agree with me. Shanti Niketan was based on this philosophy of open door schooling, but open schooling. But having said that, so we have to keep a lot of factors in mind when it comes to India. The weather conditions. So of course you cannot run an open school in the month of July, August in Rajasthan or in Delhi where it is very, very hot. Or but yes, if you are at the school is situated at the hills or situated at the places where the weather is little pleasant and it is with the it is compatible, then of course you can conduct a lot of classes, because part of the school I head, that is a Cambridge Philosophy Schools, we any which ways we take a lot of classes outside. We take a lot of classes in the playground. We take a lot of classes in maybe the corridors or our the assembly hall. So we do that. We do those permutations and combinations. But at the same point in time, keeping that social distancing in mind. And see, when I talk about Cambridge, so we know that we don't have more than 20 to 24 students in a classroom. So of course it is feasible. But when in a school where there is 50 students to a class or 60 students to a class, so there will be a lot of logistical challenges. But when we are talking about the idealistic situation or utopian idea, yes, it's a beautiful way to say that yes, we can conduct schools, we can conduct classes outdoors. But yes, we have to keep those particular things in mind, that the proper social distancing is maintained. So keeping the scenario of if I talk about Rajasthan, if I talk about the Delhi thing, or Gurgaon or Faridabad, these areas. So I think rather than experimenting outdoors, I think it would be better if they take classes indoors with proper social distancing. So that is my take on that.
All right, Dr. Vasudha, thank you so much. Mr. Vikas and Ms. Gita, would you like to add on? Or
Yeah, so last year I'd like to share an interesting thing about our school. We got closed due to excessive heat, so we had to close early. We were closed due to excessive rain, so again it was a tough thing. And then our winter vacation was extended because there was excessive cold. So as you know, Dr. Vasudha said, a lot depends on the topography of what the place is, how well their outdoors are, for conducting these classes, and how long we have been talking for. Let's say if you are talking that the schools open in July end and August, it will be a peak monsoon season. So definitely, outdoors is a not possibility over there. But yeah, soon we move into autumn and winter time. Definitely, even normally people have a lot of classes during those time in outside, outdoors and all. So that will continue. Uh, that will happen, but yeah, I think most of other things, most of the other times, it has to be managed indoors, and it has to be managed in some or other manner that we have a proper distancing between the students, and proper. It has to be a bit more disciplined of movement and a lot of things that has to be and everybody has to fall in some kind of discipline, and that is not going to be easy. But I think sooner or later people will realize that there is no better thing to do than they have to do that.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Vikas. Ms. Geeta, do you want to add on, or should I?
Sir and ma'am has covered.
I cannot hear you, Ms. Geeta.
We can carry on.
All right. All right.
Next question.
All right. Okay. So moving on to the next question. How can we best utilize technology solutions in long term to create and adapt this change? It could be for teaching, or ensuring safe environment for kids, or for following the sanitization measures. So I guess we have covered a bit in the earlier questions, but is there anything, Mr. Vikas, let us know if you have any more suggestions here, please.
Sure. So, one of the things, and a lot of adaptation which is going on, and talk is about learning management systems and all. So these learning management systems were not there earlier, or, in a very small manner they were there. Now there's a lot of focus on this learning management system. So what are they? What exactly they are? Google Classroom is one of them, but there are many more which are coming up today. So in this, basically, you have a very well organized way of putting your content. So all the content is over there. So you can organize content class-wise, subject-wise, topic-wise. It could be the video lecture, it could be the presentation, it could be the teacher's video, it could be some of the assignments, some of the quizzes, multi-level quizzes, multi-level things. So all these things which teachers are kind of first validating it, that it would be useful for their kids and they could learn in a manner, could get added, and that could be helpful for the slow learners also, because they can go back to them and they can see that what all has been, they can learn from and they have to do. And parents also can push that. Earlier everything used to happen at school and many parents were not so bothered even to check that what's going on and all. So at least that could be one positive possibility of usage of technology. Other thing, as I talked about earlier, was this video lecture and other things. So again, that's an expensive solution, but at least there will be some kind of repository which schools will have from some of the best teachers, if they are willing to share with others. Could be a source for many other schools also to benefit from those very nice teachers' experience. So that could be yet another thing. Other technology solutions which are more for safety and security, of course, they will be anyways will get adopted, because there won't be much of a chance for schools to do otherwise. But these kind of solutions will also come into picture now, and a lot of companies are coming. The publication houses are coming. A lot of other ERP companies are coming, and including all these kind of solutions. And I'm sure there will be a lot of innovation and creativity going on in that space.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Vikas. Ms. Geeta and Dr. Vasudha, anything to add on?
So it's okay.
Mr. Vikas, being a technology person, he has covered almost everything.
All right. All right. So let's move on to the next. I think this is again, some of the parents and teachers wanted to know if we can have a phased return, that is allowing the 50%. I think we have spoken about it earlier, but anything more to add on, might be we can include it here. So Dr. Vasudha, do you have any more suggestions on this?
See, as I said, that it has to be planned very, very strategically by the school management. So whether they want to, how they want to do it, Suppose if they are doing a 30% in one day, so maybe a particular student's number will come on the third day, or they are getting a chance to go to school only twice in a day or thrice in a week. So having said that, or they are doing like in Mumbai, a lot of schools have double shifts that, you know, they run the morning shifts also and they run the afternoon shifts also. But for that, their teachers are completely separated. There is a different team altogether. And then they have to have their backup ready, in the sense that a student who's not able to attend the school, Monday a particular student is not coming, but Tuesday is coming, but he has the work of the class. So the flipped classroom model or the blended learning model, or what we are doing right now, so that is also there. It was when we were discussing, so it was a very interesting scenario that came up, that suppose the school is in the green zone, but the child who's staying is in the red zone. How will we ensure that, you know, the academics are not being affected? So for that also, the schools have to be prepared for a remedial lesson or a completely recorded lesson for these students. So that those are few measures the schools can adopt to, wherein they have a particular a blend and combination of online learning, offline learning, assignments, broadcast on WhatsApps and everything. Because when there are the rural setups or the B cities, or where internet is it is a issue in the internet, or budget private schools are there, so where internet might be an issue. So at least, you know, through WhatsApp, we are everybody is on the WhatsApp at least, so they will be able to get what a teacher is trying to teach, or what a teacher is trying to give. And someone mentioned in the chat about the Doordarshan model, but I don't think that one size will fit all, because when here what I feel, teaching is all about human connection and emotionally connected. So all the teachers are emotionally connected to their children, and they love their teachers, and vice versa. Teachers love their children. So what happens is, so when they hear their own voice of their own teachers talking in that video, or if they are, you know, seeing their teacher's face online, so it brightens up their day. So so it cannot, any kind of YouTube video or a, you know, Doordarshan video or so it cannot take. So we have to understand that with this scenario wherein we are taking online classes or video classes, of course we are doing that, but that emotional connect or one-on-one connect with the student is a must, and it happens. Continuing to that, so there was also a question that was asked in chat box about the remedial classes, the students who have not understood. So I have been doing this for past 3 months. I mean, I started the online classes from 16th of March itself. So wherein what has happened is that if a particular class has a doubt, if a particular student has a doubt, so our teachers are taking that half an hour aside, whether it is on a weekday or whether it is on a Saturday. So we are, you know, taking those one-on-one sessions with the students teacher is taking. So teachers are going that extra mile to help the students out. I think I have answered the questions.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Dr. Vasudha. So I think, yeah, we are running short of time too. So
Yeah.
I'll quickly move on to the next question. That is, what are the policies that you feel needs to be implemented for the education sector in this present scenario? So Ms. Geeta, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
Yes. Shruti, we know that due to pandemic, the entire country is facing major crisis, each and every sector. And of course, one of the worst hit sector is our educational sector. So now, you know, the distance learning or online learning or virtual learning, you know, has become the lifeline for all the educational institutions, as it reduces the potential for the community spread. So in this regard, you know, I would like to mention like some of the excellent digital initiatives launched by Ministry of Human Resource and Development for the school students' sake. like, we all know that Shagun, Shagun, it's an online junction where Department of School Education and Government of India and all the states and union territories have launched several e-learning platforms under this Shagun. The main major aim of this facilities is both teachers and students with a platform where they can interact. That is the main aim of this Shagun, where both teacher as well as the student can interact with each other. Under this Shagun, we can see like majorly three different e-learning platforms. The one is NROER, that is National Repository of Open Educational Resource. Under this, students visiting here will get e-libraries, e-books, e-courses. So nearly 16,000 registered users and 14,527 e-learning resources are available here. One of the best feature of this NROER is the student can also be tested through these assignments under this e-platform. And the next one is the Diksha. It's a digital infrastructure for knowledge sharing. So in this e-learning platform, this is the e-learning platform for teachers right from grade 1 to grade 12. And under this, especially for the class 12 students, nearly 800 e-learning books are there. And next comes ePathshala. Through this web portal, students right from grade 1 to grade 12 will be able to access nearly 200 audios, 200 videos, and more than 500 flip books. So, and one more is like Swayamprabha. It's a collection of 32 DTH channels which run 24/7 for students' sake. Every day it comes up with new contents, at least like 4 hours of duration, which runs for 4 times a day. So this is one of the the most exciting government initiative. So there are other platforms are also there, like virtual labs, National Digital Library, etc. So on May 17th, 2020, while announcing the last tranche of rupees 20 lakh crore COVID-19 package, our finance minister Nirmala Sitaraman also announced that immediate launch of a PM eVidya, Pradhan Mantri eVidya program. So to boost the online education during the lockdown time. So what it exactly is, it provides 12 DTH channels with one each dedicated to each class, right from class, grade 1 to grade 12. So this is going to happen with immediate effect. So apart from this, the government of India also allowed 100% like FDI, foreign direct investment, through automatic route since 2002. So along with this, if I'm not wrong, like many state governments are also having like different set of initiatives for e-learning innovations. And if you see this, the present financial year union budget 2020-21, the government has allocated nearly rupees 59,845 crore. In terms of US dollar, it is 8.56 billion for the Department of School Education and Literacy. But if you compare this amount with the US investment in the education sector, so that is $50 57.23 billion, and in case of United Kingdom, in terms of sterling pound, if you see, 89.4 billion. When we see this huge amount, what India is investing in the education sector is a bit less only. So in this respect, we can expect, our government supposed to increase its investment so that, at least we can see a ray of light at this, critical time. Since we are slowly transforming from conventional method of teaching into technology-led educational system, it's a bit cost effective. So we need the government should invest a little more in this education sector, and this, should be included in its policy also. And along with this, like government could provide the more support for digitalization to the teachers, digitalization of teachers as well as to the students, because the many more the scheduled activities should be there to train the trainers. So what I would like to mention in this regard is, we have the source, we have the resource. So in this critical situation, the students and teachers are advised, to make the fullest use of
whatever the available resource in the country at this point of time. And so that we can continue with a smooth learning process.
All right.
Yeah, and there are many private players are there, as I said, like Byju's. Now they are offering free courses, but definitely with a span of time they will charge more.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Ms. Geeta, thank you so much. Let us just quickly move to the last question because most of the parents wanted this answered. Is it possible to ensure if the school bus or the auto drivers are following the hygiene procedures and ensure sanitization during school transportation? So what do you think could be the solution here and how can the schools go about it? So Dr. Vasudha, what are your ideas on this?
See, yes. So my ideas on that is that when we are having the school bus, when the students are boarding, they are deboarding. So of course we are following the social distancing norms. The 40% of bus only should be filled. The capacity should be filled, not all. Then all the transportations, all the hygiene procedures to be followed with the drivers, conductors. So whether it includes the giving them the mask, doing the sanitization process, and after every run, the buses need to be sanitized. So buses will be sanitized, and then students to maintain the social distancing, boarding and deboarding, and and the dispersal has to be from the classrooms. Dispersal will not be happening from the assembly area because every school has a different way of doing the dispersal. And whenever students are boarding the bus from their bus stop, so of course the drivers and the conductors and conductors and DD will be in the mask with the gloves, and they will be sanitizing them. We have already spoken about that thermometer, that thermal heat meter, that where we can check the temperature of each child. So these are the things that will be followed, and I'm sure that there are so many procedures that transportation guidelines that are being given to the schools and that we follow diligently. So I'm sure that the education DOE or the education ministry will give the school some guidelines related to that, and I think everyone will be following that diligently because of course we want our students to be safe and secured all the time. Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Vasudha. I think we have quite a few questions here in the chat section. There's one question saying in our office they have. Okay, in our office, they have said that they will bring in the housekeeping staff a month before the rest of us can start going to work. It's not only to sanitize the workspace properly, but also put down a new protocol and getting the staff used to it. What would this be possible even in schools? Would there be any challenges? So would any of you would like to take up this question?
Of course, it will have to be. I mean, there is no choice because now also, you know, when the schools are shut completely, so we have the guards. But having said that, we did this once in a month or once in 3 weeks. You know, we are sending the staff to do the cleaning. So of course, it has to happen because when we are talking about office, we must be talking about 100 odd employees or 200 odd employees. But here we are talking about 2,000 students and around about 200 teachers. So we are talking about the numbers. So of course that will be there. That will be a mandate that will happen. We will have to prepare them in advance, and sharing the example when the schools were shut down, where in the lockdown also. So I think we, the management, the principals and the vice principals and the admin head and the director, we all were there, and we ensured ourselves that we had got the rooms fumigated, sanitized, locked, and then so any which ways it will be done. Yes.
All right. Okay. So maybe we'll just take the last two questions. There's one question saying, how can schools ensure proper personal safety and social distancing norms among students?
I think we have already answered
we
this
covered
question.
that.
Yes, yes, we have already covered that. We will be ensuring, and schools are very, very particular about the safety and security of their children. So,
Okay.
so yes, I think we covered that aspect.
All right. There's one last. Do you feel that Doordarshan should
That
present?
I answered. That
All
I
right. Oh,
answered when
yeah.
I said yes, yes.
Perfect. Okay. So I think most of our most of the questions have been answered. Now it's all it will be the parents, teachers, and the management together to take a collective decision on how to reopen schools and what strict hygiene measures needs to be followed. So thank you, dear panelists, for your valuable insights. I'm sure it was very helpful to everyone who has attended the webinar. Thank you, dear participants. If you have any more questions, you can write to us on contact@resoluteai.in. Also, if you would like to watch this webinar again or wish to share it with your family and friends, I'll be sharing the link based on request. So I would like to end by saying, stay home, stay safe. We are all in this together, and we'll get through this. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Shruti.
Thanks, Shruti.
Thank you. Thank you so much.